I'll try and be quick. We've got 40 slides to get through, people, but some duplicates. So I'll try and be quick as I can. If you've noticed, this one's having a bumper season at the moment. There's some plants that are doing really well, and this one's one of them. Blueberry ash sent in from Simon. So in the bushland, they're doing really well. That was the first slide from Simon, and there's the second one. Nice close-up of the flowers. So whether they're in the bushland or growing on the street, and Sutherland Council seems to be planting a few of them, and I think other people are for tree removal, substitution and things like that. They're doing really well. So that's your blueberry ash. Flowers upside down. I normally say this, they're now related to Tetratheca. Those little pink flowered herbs, and both of those genera, they hang their flowers upside down. So let's look out for them. They're doing really well. Simon, I kicked off with his photos where he also sent in this beautiful developing inflorescence of Banksia serrata. That's a really nice photo, Simon. Thought that was good. But whatever Simon can do, Jason Salmon can do better. And Jason Salmon sent one in as well. Jason sent some photos in and then told me he was going to the football, but he sent in his photos. These are from, and Martin was with him today, these are from Lucas Heights and Menai. So I think this one's from Menai, I think he said. So that's a really nice developing inflorescence there. They can get quite large on Banksia serrata. And then Ralph sent in, I'm assuming it's a Banksia serrata leaf, Ralph, the underside, with possibly some water droplets on it, which is a really nice photo. So just threw that in as well. Nice plant to grow. Simon also sent in a Grevillea longifolia, I think it is. Was this in the wild, Simon, or did you get it is it in a garden?
No, it's in the garden, Dan. I suspect it's a cultivar based on longifolia. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah, they grow in Heathcote National Park down on Kangaroo Creek there. And also they're very similar to a splenifolia as well. You got to check that. It might be a splenifolia, that one, but either way, that's what they look like. There's some subtle differences in the leaves, but
you see some of the leaves have quite distinct toothed kind of. You can see at the bottom there, some of the leaves have quite distinct tooths on them.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I think it goes on leaf width and a couple of other things. But look, I think
longifolia is just straight leaves mostly, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll have to revisit that. I visited a last meeting, I think, when Heather sent one in, I think, or the meeting before. They're a beautiful shrub. They're really nice. Well worth growing.
This is in the garden anyway. It's been planted.
Yep. Yeah, we've seen some.
It's in my partner's garden too.
Nice one. We've seen some beautiful shots of that this year, and this one's really good too. Grevillea Hills Jubilee. Simon says it is. I'm not too sure, but I did look this one quickly. It's got there's an Angus Gardening at Angus webpage for it if you want to look it up. I don't know too much about it, but it's a beautiful photo. Simon, really nice. That colour's stunning.
Just phone camera photos. I just did a quick round of Marie's garden before when I realised the meeting was coming up. And this is one we got from the Grevillea Garden open days where they sell plants, and Marie bought a couple of plants, including this one. So it should be. I think it should be a pretty accurate
name for it.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so anyway, because
I think you're right. I looked up some images.
Sold from the gardens.
Yep.
And there's a lot of knowledgeable people there selling the plants. So.
Yep. Good one. I don't think that's in the plant table database, so that might be a new one for next month when I send it to you. Yeah. Okay. And thanks for uploading that for me too. Okay. All right. This is a stunner from Tony Porritt. Tylotus exaltatus. This is a plant that grows out in the arid zones, or west of the western slopes, I guess, on the western plains of New South Wales and further in. If you look it up lately, there's some conjecture over its current name. I think it's going to be split into a different species, possibly, based on sort of similar things that Richard's been talking about tonight, previous collections and species complexes and all that sort of thing. But Tony's got this growing really well. I think Leonie's grown this one before, and other members. It's a bit of an annual in its natural habitat, but it's in the Amaranthaceae family, and it just puts up these sort of fluffy flower heads. And I've seen them from members at the meetings a few times, so they're well worth a try. Especially when you get results like that. They're quite nice. They can grow to about 1.5 meters tall or thereabouts. So that's beautiful from Tony. Mulla mulla is a common name. Tony just wanted to show the berries on his Dianella caerulea, or blue flax lily. Sometimes fruits get overlooked, but Dianellas, they put on really nice berries. You can eat these if you want. They don't really taste, I don't think they taste all that good, but apparently the Indigenous people did eat them, and they're fine to eat. Maybe, again, don't eat too many if you've got a branch like this, but I just find they're a bit tasteless, but you can eat them. Dianella caerulea. This was from Rhonda. Rhonda's grass trees flowering. We might have discussed the species last time, but I couldn't quite remember. But the highlight of this is Rhonda's discovered a new pollination syndrome for Xanthorrhoea. She's going to write a paper on that. The old leopard slug, I think, is on the Xanthorrhoea, going for the flowers. Maybe it's eating them. Do you know what it's doing, Rhonda? Is it chewing on them, or?
Well, I've got no idea, but you can see the slime trails all over the flower spike, and even after the flowers died. So when they all got, rain damage. So I just went out to take a photo, and I was just really surprised to see it. I just didn't think it would be on that. I don't know what it's doing.
I've got leopard slugs constantly all through my backyard. I step on them all the time. They get in the dog's water bowl. The chooks don't want to eat them. They're everywhere. They're an interesting little critter, but yeah, they're incredibly slimy. It's like getting sort of scholastic on your hands or on your feet that you can't get off. They're interesting. Yeah, nice one. Good photo. And Rhonda sent this one in. This is a common sort of cutleaf daisy we get in the genus Brachyschamia. And we think this is Brachyschamia graminia, which I think used to be called Brachyschamia angustifolia. But I found these recently at Voyager Point and places like that coming up after fire. And they're a bit variable. The leaves can be either skinny or sort of broad, but makes a real nice garden addition if you can get them. Rhonda got this one from somewhere.
Well, the Sutherland Council Nursery.
Oh, well, there you go. Even easier. You'll get one for cheap. Yeah.
But they didn't have very many, so that's why I thought I'd show people, because I'd never seen it before.
Yeah. Yeah, multifida or multifide is a more common one that you buy in nurseries, but there's a lot of Brachyschamias, and we should probably be growing a few more of them. They're quite nice. Sometimes the flowers are purple, sometimes they're white on some species, and sometimes there's pink ones as well. So they're quite nice.
I've got some of those to be dug up on Saturday.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Ralph. I assume that they'll transplant okay. Yeah, if you can keep the water up to them maybe and get the root ball out. Yeah, nice one. Now this one's, I think Lisa is going to get the prize tonight for this photo. Actinotus forsythii, the pink flannel flower. That is that the one Lloyd Hedges likes to propagate? It is, isn't it? I think. Yeah. Yeah. So Lisa's just got this one to open up. So it's a brilliant photo. I put it in there. And I guess what I'd point out, because I haven't quite taken my TAFE teacher hat off tonight, that disc in there, that's where the flowers are. There's hundreds or let's say tens of flowers in that disc. And that's a typical Apiaceae carrot setup where you've got the flowers in what we call an umbel. And you can see the pedicels there of the flowers. Lisa's showing those really well. And you've just got these, short, skinny flowers in the tens or maybe over 100 sitting in this disc. And then they're just surrounded by these flannel-like bracts. And that's a setup in your flannel flowers. It is similar to a daisy, but it's not quite the same. They're in different families and they're slightly different setups. But some people sort of look at that and think that's one flower, but it's actually hundreds of little flowers in the middle. And then you've got these flannel-like bracts surrounding that disc. So I just wanted to point that out since Lisa's taken such a good photo of the setup. That's a great photo, Lisa. And I just teed that up with Jason's photo again. The flannel flowers are getting a really good run in the last couple of months with us. Maybe the rain, they're having a really good show. And in some areas, they'd probably be coming up after fire now as well. But that's Jason's photo from today. So we saw some spectacular ones from Joan Zandy last month. And this patch is just as good. Thanks, Jason. On to Leonie's now. Leonie has sent in 2 plants. This is the tree rhododendron lockyer. It's from far northern Queensland, where it's not a threatened species, but it's rare. They reckon it's incredibly rare, but it's sort of in safe habitat in the Daintree there. Beautiful plant. It's in its natural habitat, it's epiphytic. It grows on other plants. But Leonie, have you just got this one planted in the soil?
I put it in a pot. It's sitting up in a pot instead of putting it in the soil. I haven't had success when I've planted it in the ground. They either they dry out or whatever. So in the pot it seems happier. But now you're saying it's epiphytic. That's good. It might be just better in the pot.
Yeah, sure. I know very little about North Queensland flora. But I think it does say it's epiphytic. I've never seen them in the wild, but if I brought one once, I might have bought one off Phil. I planted it in the soil and it died pretty quickly. So I should try them again, but keeping them in a pot, if they're epiphytic, would be a great idea. So Leonie's got that growing really well. Beautiful flowers there. One of our natives that's related to the azaleas and the rhododendrons and things like blueberry as well. So that's quite nice. And then another plant that I really love from Leonie is the Syzygium wilsonii, or the powder puff lily pilly. It's from pretty much the same part of the world. It's from northern Queensland. It's not threatened or anything like that, but that's where it's from. And the flowers are just spectacular. It's a really slow growing lily pilly. It grows to about 6 meters tall, but it'll be there for the long run if you can get it to grow. It'll grow for decades if it's happy, like a lot of Myrtaceae things. And look, the photo's a little bit blurry, but you can see the colour there. It's made an appearance on our plant table before when members bring it in. I think Tony Porritt grows one as well. I've got one out here in the garden. It's only 40 centimeters tall and it's been sitting there like that for 3 years. So it might get going eventually, but the color is stunning. If you get one, they're well worth getting just for that beautiful color. It's really nice. And lily pillies are nice shrubs to grow anyway. So that's your powder puff lily pilly. Those inflorescences can get about 3-4 centimeters across. So they're nice and big. Well worth it. Thanks, Leonie. Jane sent in a grass. It's always say we should see more native grasses here. This is your Echinopogon ovatus. You can find this commonly in forest areas, habitat like Sydney turpentine ironbark forest around Menai and places like that. It gets called hedgehog grass, but just be wary that some really hardcore bushland regenerators and bush carers will tell you we should call it echidna grass because calling it hedgehog grass is un-Australian. So just make sure you are wary of that. That's what I got taught back in the day. But Echinopogon, it's got a similar wording to echidna, but echino comes from the Greek for sea urchin, or a word called akino, which means spiky or prickly. So we can see how that translates to hedgehog grass or echidna grass. I assume the word echidna sort of gets its roots from that word echino, but echinopogona means prickly beard. And that's probably Echinopogon ovatus, Joan, I think, with a sort of wider leaves than C. spitosus. There's 2 common species in Sydney, but they're really nice. They get these beautiful heads on them. Some people might think they look a bit weedy, but these native grasses are well worth growing and mucking around with and filling in gaps. And people like Dita Hoculi will argue you'll bring more birds into your garden if you grow a few native grasses. You'll get the birds coming in, picking insects off them and all that sort of thing. So they're well worth it.
They came from the council nursery, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you'll get it. Yeah. Nice, Joan. That's really good. Sticking with Joan, and where would we be at this time of the year without a Christmas bush? So Joan's got this one going. Joan, all I did here was made your photo a little bit brighter because it was a bit dark. And that's the only photoshopping I've done for this presentation. I just brightened it up a little bit.
I just take the photos with the iPad. If they come out, they come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not really quite dark yet. My Christmas bushes are only of a pale pinkish red.
Yep.
I've got two others in different parts of the garden that are still white. Well, the flowers are white. The redness hasn't come through yet.
Yep, sure. Yeah, you can see that really cool transition there at this time of the year from the small creamy flowers, which are going to get fertilized and go on to red, where the red sepals enlarge to surround the fruit. So that's a great transitional shot, really. And I'm sure in a month there'll be more reddy pink and less cream. So yeah, great shot. And it just reminds us about the time of year and the year we've had and all that sort of thing. That's what I thought about when I looked at that. So thanks for sending that in, Joan. Straight after Joan took that, she was rushed to hospital because she got attacked by this thing. So a bit of fauna for the night. I put in the name for that because I thought I should pay more attention to fauna sometimes, your blue-tongued lizard. So that's a great photo. Joan, he's pretty comfortable with you.
Well, I was just there weeding the air harder out of my microlina pathway way up the back. And you just think something's looking at you. And I looked up and there he was sunbaking on the rock underneath the Hardenbergia.
Yeah.
There while I raced back in the house to get the iPad and raced back out again.
Yeah. My mum at Chippy Norton, she's got this back room and she hasn't had a dog or cat for ages and the garden's all overgrown. So there's blue tongues there all the time. And this blue tongue comes in the back door and just sits on the carpet about half a metre in the back door and just stares at her. It just stares at her as she's watching TV.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, and I think she might give a little bits of mince or something, but it just sits there and stares at her. Yeah, it's quite interesting. She's formed a bond with this blue tongue. Yeah, really beautiful. Okay, Jason took this today, Melaleucadinii. This is the one with Martin. It's a threatened species of the Lucas Heights Conservation Area. So Melaleucadinii, it's a funny species. It's got some disjunct populations around Sydney. It goes from Barowra down to about Nowra. And if you do a survey around Sydney or further afield, it's sort of a species you've got to watch out for because it can turn up on the lateritic shale outcrops and places like that. It's notoriously difficult to get it setting fruit, is my understanding. It's very hard to find fruit on it. But Jason runs around and collects seed from this one. And if you go to the Lucas Heights mountain bike tracks, you can see it where mountain bikers pretty much drive right past it or ride right past it. So in Sutherland Shire, there's a fair few of them, which is good in that Menai Lucas Heights area. Jason sent this one in as well. This can be a real stunner at times. I've seen a lot of these recently, Scaevola ramosissima. I don't know if anyone's ever tried growing this one, but it'd be really nice if you could get it to grow. I don't know if you can buy it or propagate it. You can get the other Scaevolas. I don't know if you can get this one, but it's a beautiful plant in sandstone areas in the Royal. And after fire and with a bit of rain, it can put on a really nice show. It's got a flower about 3 centimeters across, or maybe a bit more. So they're beautiful. It's a beautiful species, easily identifiable because it just the way it grows. Just moving to a different one, Thyzonotus tuberosus, another one from Jason today. So this one's no one that we know, I think, really grows it, but it's common in Sydney bushlands. The fringe lily, really nice. And I've paired that up with one that Ralph took as well and sent me. So Ralph's also been out photographing the fringe lilies. And that's a really good shot by Ralph there. That's a stunner, Ralph. Great photo. You can see the difference in the 3 or the 6 tepals. You've got 3 the same and the other 3 are the same, which is a feature of a lot of lilies if you look at them closely. Nice one. Really nice. Jason sent this one in, Christmas bells, again indicating the time of year perhaps. Blandfordia nobilis, I think that came from Menai, I think. Really nice one, really eye-catching. You can see them outside Christmas as well, you know, January, February, and this time of year obviously too, but quite an interesting plant. Wet heath, sandstone woodlands, they get around a bit, and they mainly got a coastal distribution up to about Sydney, but they go down the south coast a fair way. So they're quite nice. Ralph sent this in from the backyard, Herbaceae scandens. This has always been a plant I've wanted to grow, but I've never got around to buying one and getting one in the ground. Really hardy, really versatile. You get a nice big plant as well if you can train it. I think Ralph might have this growing on a fence, I think, but it's got the largest flowers of any Herbaceae.
Yeah, growing up a fence.
Thanks, Ralph. And I love this photo. I love any photo of plant material with water droplets on it. I could just stare at it for hours for some reason. That's nice, Ralph. Really good. The thing about Herbaceae scandens, it's got a lot of stamens in the center. A lot of the Herbaceae species will have a lot less stamens than that, but this one can have over 30 or 50, and it's easy to identify anyway. But if you're going to identify Herbaceaes and key them out, you've got to start with what's going on in the middle, the number of stamens and the number of female parts. It's quite a challenge and quite fun. You need a hand lens, but Herbaceae scandens, it's one of the first ones to come out in the key, so it's quite easy to identify. But really nice, Ralph. It's a really nice plant to grow, that one. Ralph's also got this really nice photo, I think, of developing fruit or developing capsules on a Leptospermum polygallifolium. I think it is, Ralph. That was my guess. That's really nice. That's sort of the capsule half developed, or I'd say at about the halfway point. So it's going to go a lot more woody and change colour, but that's got some beautiful colour in it. That fantastic photo. So there's some developing fruit. 10 slides to go. And Ralph's also got the developing fruit of Hakea sericea. So Ralph does well getting sort of the plants in their different stages, and he's done that for a lot of this year, so that's really good. That fruit's in its really early stages. It's going to get a lot more woodier and like a typical Hakea follicle they've got. Ralph sent this one in, a Macrozamia communis, or the burrowang, and it's got some cones on it. Some developing, are they the female cones or the male cones? I think they're the female, but don't quote me. But yeah, the macrozamias, the cycads, they get these large cones, which the indigenous people used to make use of in terms of eating, but we'll always have to say they're highly poisonous and you have to leach them for a fair bit. So put some running water through them, I guess, or warm running water. And then they're cooked and you get a nice starchy sort of kernel, I guess, or seed that you can eat. But they are highly poisonous in their raw form, which I'm sure everyone knows. But that's macrozamia, very, very long-lived plants. That's probably impossible to get out of the ground. So you need a bobcat. I don't know if anyone's going to dig that one up, Ralph.
I doubt it.
You can have a go. We'll probably need 10 shovels or in a circle. Be really heavy as well. But that's nice. Did you plant that one, Ralph? I was wondering.
Yes, that was stolen as a seedling from our first camping trip when we arrived in Australia in 1981.
Oh, wow. Wowzers. I was just wondering how old that plant was. Yeah.
About 30
Fantastic.
years.
Yeah. Is that in harm's way or can that stay while the house gets built?
I'm going to try and sort of wrap it up and make it a bit like a tree, put some wire around it to make it a lot smaller. I'm hoping to save that one, but I don't know.
Yeah, I hope it gets saved. It's you want to keep that one if you can. Yeah.
How come you're knocking your house down for?
Long story, Martin.
Come on Saturday and find out.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Probably. Okay, Ralph, still going with Pandaria jasminoides. Just a nice photo of the flowers there. This is the other Pandaria you can grow. It does really well, really hardy. You get the deep pink, sort of larger flowers, much larger flowers, I should say, compared to Pandaria jasminoides. They're produced in sort of fewer numbers, but they're a lot larger. Well worth growing. Vigorous climber. You'll have to sort of keep it under control a bit, but it's a really nice one. And Ralph's got this beautiful Platycerium bifurcatum, the elkhorn. I was having a good look at these today. Ralph has made me realise that my staghorn fern out the back is actually a staghorn and not an elkhorn. I actually compared the two photos. I've never really done that before. I had a good look at the differences, but the elkhorn fern has much more linear dissected fronds, where the staghorn's got much more sort of rounded, intact sort of fronds. But they both grow in New South Wales, up the north coast. They're both epiphytic, and they've been popular for a while. I remember my grandparents having a ton of elkhorn ferns in Cabramatta. So yeah, they're nice. If you can just tie them to something, they do really well. Keep them out of the hot western sun if you can. Mine gets hot western sun and it sort of can look good for a while and then it looks a bit crappy through the summer and then it looks good again. It would probably do a bit better if it wasn't in the western sun, but give it some morning sun perhaps and then just see how you go. But they look after themselves really well as long as they can stay affixed to whatever you're going to affix them to. Like this tree stump here that Ralph's got. In my past garden days, I've had tasks where I've used a rope to tie them to something that someone wants to grow it on. And after about a year or two, I've taken the rope off and the fern just sticks there to the support. So you can do things like that, occy straps, I guess, things like that, and it'll work really well. But they're nice plants, really worth growing. Ralph sent this one in, a callistemon. I think it's a citrinus cultivar. Ralph said the leaves smell like lemon, and if they do, that's a citrinus cultivar. It's a local Sydney callistemon. You can find it in local bushlands, especially around, I've seen them around Lucas Heights and places like that. Nice one. This is a developing inflorescence. Always like the bottle brushes. We saw a few last month. A kangaroo paw from Ralph. Anigoxanthos. I can't say much more about it than that. Do you know what type it is, Ralph?
It's a yellow one, Dan.
Yeah. Yellow kangaroo paw. Nice one. Yeah. Looking really good. That's looking great. Nice one there. And we're going to finish on the orchids. So we just got a couple of orchids to get through. This came in from Tony. This wasn't one I was familiar with. This is a threatened species in the wild up on the New South Wales north coast. It's called ravine orchid. It's found in gullies in subtropical rainforest. Sarcocollis fitzgeraldi. I'm not sure where Tony got it. You'd have to ask him. But it is a threatened species in New South Wales. Beautiful flowers. Growing really well. Looks like he's got it in pots on the wall, probably in some coarse media or something. It's an epiphytic orchid, a bit like a dendrobium. Ralph sent this in from the bush. You can see these commonly enough if you keep your eyes open. Cryptostylus subulata. It's a large tongue orchid. And I did see some flowering recently in northern Sydney. They're a funny looking orchid, not sort of much different shape to Cryptostylus erecta. But if you keep your eye out, you can see this sort of thing coming up from Cryptostylus leaves quite commonly. Cryptostylus subulata, and Ralph also sent in Dipodium roseum. I think it is, with its pink tones. This is a pink hyacinth orchid, or the rose hyacinth orchid. It comes up about October, November, where some of the other Dipodiums come up earlier than that, and they'll have a lot more white in the flower, but that's Dipodium roseum. You can see it in Bonnet Bay. I've seen it in Burnham, places like that. It's one of the orchids that doesn't really photosynthesize. It's sort of, they reckon it just lives off the fungi that it's grown with. They're quite really interesting as far as plants go, but they're always stunning when you can see them. And right on the death, Jason sent this in from Caringbah, he said it is. So I'm not sure exactly where, but that's a Cymbidium suave, which is another epiphytic orchid that we see. You see them a lot actually, but you might walk past them in the bush thinking it's a Lamandra growing in a tree, but it's actually Cymbidium suave a lot of the time, although I have seen Lamandra longifolias growing in trees as well. But you can see by the foliage, if they're not in flower, they look very Lamandra-like, but it's a shame we don't have a close-up, but this thing's covered in, well, sort of sprays of flowers, or panicles, racemes, I should say. And Jason, I think he's got this one today, I'm not sure. I wouldn't have thought it'd be flowering now, but maybe it is. But that's Cymbidium suave. It's a native epiphytic orchid. You'll see it in the bush quite readily, growing in Angophora costata and similar trees. It's got a distribution up and down the coast. Really nice plant. I don't know if I've ever seen members growing them, but possibly. Yeah, you got one?
It was at my place when I moved in. It was just left on a sort of a stump, and I didn't know what it was, and I asked Aileen. And suave means sweet, so I think you can actually smell them from a distance. You know, scented. Yep, nice. Yep, okay. Yeah, well, yeah, if you've got one, and Rhonda
I'm going to
does
go out and have a look to see whether it's in flower now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
behind the grass tree.
Right. Yeah, nice one. They're well worth growing. Yeah, really, really nice. You get all those. He's got, I mean, this one's got hundreds of flowers on it, all in those sprays, sort of hanging down. So that's it. I got to the end. Thanks a lot. Well, I think a big round of applause for Dan for those